Hey everyone, it's Alex and welcome to the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. And if you'd like to support the content, consider hitting that like button. And while you're there, just double check to make sure that you are subscribed. And with that being said, it's worth noting that I have mentioned it a couple times. I am planning some new forms of content for the channel. It takes a little bit of time to get these things off the ground and running, but I do have some fun plans for the future. So if you're not subscribed, consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date. And most importantly, if you're the kind of person that might be kind of waning themselves off of Snap a little bit, a couple things I want to say. First of all, I got some new kind of stuff coming down the pipeline, which I hope that you would enjoy. So consider staying subscribed. And if you want to see some variety gaming content, I'm doing a lot of that on Twitch TV right now. I don't usually just like outright plug my Twitch, so to speak, but we've been having a lot of fun with variety content. And so if you're listening right now and you have not yet followed along on Twitch, consider using the link in the description down below to kind of follow along on Twitch, just so you guys can stay up to date with the variety content that I've been producing there, which has been a lot of fun. With that being said, let's dive into exactly why you're here, which are the top 10 decks of the week. Well, it's an 11th deck here. As always, we have a bonus deck, which is Agent Coccia. Now, Coccia is not doing great, but on the fringes has a couple okay decks, this being the highest cube rate and highest win rate version of Coccia currently, and probably the best way to get that weekend mission done outside of Airsham. 57% win rate at 0.26 cube rate. Honestly, decent stats. The cube rate may be a little bit on the lower end, but let's see if you guys out there can raise that cube rate above 30, which is usually where we want it. And this is essentially an Agent Venom deck with a couple changes, including the Goose, which is pretty fascinating. And you have, of course, Marvel Boy. What's fascinating about this particular list is you only have a couple ways of boosting Coccia. However, maybe that's just enough. And so, Coccia having a spot in the meta here, I think she's underperformed a little bit. However, she's the kind of card that should age particularly well, especially if Second Dinner is interested in leaning in towards the skills in Marvel Snap, because she will obviously be a core component alongside Nicholas Scratch of skill-based debuffing decks and stuff like that. So, or buffing decks, I should say. Well, she gets buffed and she then debuffs, whatever. You get what I meant, right? So anyways, I think the future's probably bright with Coccia, even if she hasn't quite landed as firmly on her feet as I perhaps would have expected myself. But seeing a deck like this, I mean, it is a really good shell, but it's running the Coccia edition. It does give me a little bit of hope, despite the fact that, just the version without Coccia is just technically, statistically better. But just give us a chance to cope a little bit, right? Cope and hoping with Agent Coccia. That's going to take us to number 10, and it's Dormammu. And this is not a typo. Dormammu was actually our 10th deck last week, and the win rate actually increased. We see this from time to time where, people are like, oh, Dormammu's not doing great. And then we have a deck that's on the fringes, seeing a little bit of play, and then people are like, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot. We featured it in the video last week, and now we have a slightly different version. This version's running Angel, running a 56% win rate and a 0.37 cube rate, which is a strong cube rate. This deck, honestly, I was playing it. It's kind of fun. And again, I've had multiple circumstances where I'm able to get out Dormammu on turn 5, turn 6, a free death, and a null. And at the very least, if I'm able to, destroy the Wolverine and the Bucky Barnes, you're generating so much value on these turns, especially with the Dormammu coming down on 5. Is it somewhat tricky to get that ball rolling as early as possible? Yes. Is destroying the hood and bring that back and lowering Dormammu's power kind of sad? Of course it is. But sometimes you just got to get stuff out there and get the engine rolling, and this deck has been doing exactly that. So honestly, a pretty decent spot if you're looking to test some Dormammu. The statistics are showcasing it as a pretty legitimate contender for Destroy, and you love to see it because I think Dormammu does bring a lot of fun to the table, despite perhaps some early frustrations with the card. Coming in at number 9, we do have this is classic Bullseye, as your boy had created. No, I shouldn't say that. This version has Grandmaster in it. My original version didn't have Grandmaster in it. But long story short, Bullseye running a 56% win rate at 0.48 cube rate continues to be an absolute standout deck. If you're missing something like Grandmaster, you could very easily use something like a Zola, which still, honestly, I really enjoy Zolaing the Dawkin and then procking the Bullseye and just pew 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 all over the place and getting Dawkin huge. Is it a little bit of a one trick? Maybe, but the deck still works and has been very consistent in its performance across infinite-based statistics, which these are. Bullseye, 56% win rate, 0.48 cube rate. I don't know what else you want me to say. The deck's good, it works well, and Meek continues to climb as a one-cost scaler. People just really sleep on Meek, man. I see versions of this deck that cut Meek. You're doing it wrong. Meek is a beauty in this deck, and those of you that play the Meek versions definitely know that. Number 8, Coccia. We talked about Coccia last week being an old, reliable, solid cube rate and win rate deck, and we see exactly that this week as well. 57% win rate and a .33 cube rate, all of which is just good. Anything above 30 is good. .33 is solid. We do have some higher performing cube rate decks and obviously some higher win rate decks, but Coccia is good. And I like the fact here that we have one version of discard and another version of discard very close to each other in performance. It's honestly, kudos to Glenn and the design team at Second Dinner that you have one archetype discard which has multiple flavors which are performing adequately to give themselves their own breathing room between each other, which I do appreciate. I tend to play the bullseye version, but you know what? This week I might lean into the Coccia. I feel like Coccia is one of those cards I haven't played enough of. Just admittedly, there's always new stuff coming out, and I always fall back to the same stuff like Evo and Surfer just for the funsies. I might rip some Coccia this weekend, like a lot of Coccia, because I'll be honest, he's been in Marvel Mystic Mayhem. He had a little cameo there, and I was kind of excited to see him. So maybe some Coccias on the docket for me this week as we move into our top 7. There's been some excitement around for Morgan Le Fay perhaps making a splash in the meta. 57% win rate deck at a .39 cube rate, which is awesome. Honestly, this is good. The deck is unique. It's interesting. I like the disruption of things like Juggernaut. Anytime Juggernaut gets in a deck, man, you love to see it. Angel, unironically, in this deck. And of course, you have the recently nerfed Makari. But notably, you do have the Morgan Le Fay. You have the Death. You have quite a few activators in the Killmonger and the Venom, and the Carnage, of course. A lot of fun stuff here. A lot of fun stuff. A really unique take on Morgan Le Fay. I heard some comments of people, like I was streaming this week and I was playing some Snap, and people were saying, Alex, have you seen some of the Morgan Le Fay stuff happening? And so this is currently the top performing version of Morgan Le Fay, but it's really cool to see that people are experimenting because, it's just a couple cards off. Some of you guys, right, might get your hands on this deck, make a couple substitutions, and next week I'm talking about the deck that you designed, right? Or at least you reiterated on. But long story short, it's good to see Morgan Le Fay having a little bit of a splash here. I think the card is a really cool, very interesting design. Also, good in the sense that, I'm glad people were still cooking. There's so many cards coming out and so much happening in Snap sometimes with the release schedule that sometimes Morgan Le Fay didn't perform well on release. You're like, man, you just let it kind of fall off. I like the fact that someone sat down and said, you know what? No, I'm not done with you, Miss Morgan Le Fay. We're going to figure you out. And they came up with this deck that's performing really well at 7 on our list, 57% win rate, .39 cube rate. That's going to take us to number 6. And would you believe it? It is Negative Gore, and this is a rogue variant running Magic. Negative Gore continues to be a fantastic deck in the meta. This has been ever since Gore's release, honestly. Gore's probably been one of the best cards that has flown kind of under the radar. Now, you think, Alex, you talk about it all the time, especially when I'm going to talk about it next week with the new season because it's always a good bot stomper card. But honestly, Gore's been doing really, really well. These Negative Gore decks have been very consistent performers and a 57% rate, .44 cube rate, and this is post-infinite stats, no bots. So if you're doing, infinite conquest or whatever, you might be able to lean into Negative Gore because if people don't have the tools, you just stomp them. And you can only retreat so many times in Conquest, right? Erisham, Gore, some of these decks really do well in Conquest. Mill's a good example of just annoying your opponent in Conquest. And so if you want to play something, Negative Gore is performing particularly well at a 57% win rate of .44 cube rate. Number 5, it's Ajax. Now, the cube rate came down a little bit over the past week or two, and so 58% win rate, .30 cube rate. 30 is approximately the baseline that we look for, but 58% win rate is still good. I like this addition with Malekith, although some of the hits with Malekith aren't great. You're generally hoping to hit something like a Luke Cage or maybe even a Red Guardian or Diamondback. Hazmat, of course, too. Okay, fine. There's a lot of good hits here, despite the fact that when I play this deck, I'm always pulling Surge on, with Malekith, which is kind of sad, but or again, Scorpion's not great either. But honestly, the deck performs well. Laufey does a good job here. It does. Listen, Hazmat as a 3-cost does feel a little bad. I've been finding it forces me more often to play Ajax on turn 5, and then it's usually Hazmat Diamondback on turn 6, or Red Guardian, Hazmat, or whatever, right? Usually I'm trying to finish with Diamondback. I find that to be the best, but Hazmat still has a role to play in the meta despite the nerf here, and it's good to see that Toxic is still holding its own despite the fact that its main kind of linchpin card in Hazmat did get impacted by a recent OTA. 58% win rate, still solid, not quite at the high cube rates we saw prior, but still doing particularly well if you're looking to get into some Toxic. Then we have at number 4, Emperor Move. We have a Move deck here running a 58% win rate, 0.40 cube rate. Pretty low sample size on this, but it was unique and interesting, so I wanted to feature it. You do have the Fanfei, I almost forgot what her name was, Fanfei, Hellion, and of course Emperor Hulkling. Now the Emperor Hulkling, just pure spice in this list, but you got a lot of movement here with the Fanfei, the Hellion, and of course the Heimdall. You got the Scalers into the Human Torch, the Dagger, and the Vulture, and of course Cosmo, which protects your big chunks that are moving around. They're not even chunks; they just get chunky. They stuff their mouths with all that sweet movement sauce and get nice and huge, right? Dagger and Vulture, and of course the Human Torch. Madam Web, Aranya, they're all beauties. It's a solid deck. I don't like playing Move that much. I feel like I keep saying, I even said on the Snapchat, where I feel like the 3-lane and 4-card restrictions of Marvel Snap really impacts Move. Like, it makes Move feel a lot more awkward and just sometimes not worth the effort. Like, I don't want to say a type of archetype's not worth the effort, but like, let me know what you guys think. Does it sometimes you just play Move and you're like, man, I don't want to think this hard. I'm trying to relax and play a video game, and it feels like sometimes Move is at odds with the way Snap's designed. But anyways, we do have a good performing deck at number 4, and that's going to take us into the top 3. Top 3, we do have Agent Havoc. Now, we did talk about the Clea version prior, and the non-Clea version does outperform that at a 59% win rate and a 0.31 cube rate. The cube rates are relatively close, I guess, and maybe a little more practice with Clea, maybe the win rate comes up too. But long story short, these decks continue to be very good. I'm pleasantly surprised in my testing with these decks that Kitty Pryde doesn't feel as necessary as she once was, considering Merlin and Nico and the Demon and everything else you get to kind of add alongside. And of course, sometimes things are discounted with Surge. It just makes it so that like you're very frequently getting those Thena buffs, which Thena tends to carry. Even at turn 4 where you play Havoc, with that 4 energy, you're able to do quite a bit. You often get a Merlin skill alongside a Sage, or you're able to kind of keep that Thena popped up with multiple 2-card plays from turn 4, 5, and 6. So anyways, and all of which with 4 energy. The whole thing's designed to be able to function with 4 energy. Skills, I love Angela. Angela's seeing a legitimate resurgence with skills because it's just you just pop it up. It reminds me of like when you originally played Angela in the olden days, and like a good combo card with Angela, to say combo is kind of funny, but it would be like a Nightcrawler or even a Jeff, because you would like play onto her and move and play and then move. So like Angela was getting a disproportionate amount of value. I think at that time she was getting +2 as well. Angela's been changed so many times. She got +2 at some point, right? I'm not making that up. But anyways, Agent Havoc, number 3, and this is honestly still one of my favorite decks. I think this is the last deck I played on stream. Like, I just love this. I absolutely love Agent Havoc. I just can't get enough. And number 2, got a couple fancy splashes here. We do have Annihilus by Night. Werewolf by Night has been a major enjoyer of skills and all these things that have been coming out from Marvel Snap's wheelhouse. 61% win rate and a 0.67 cube rate. Guys, this deck is all over the place, and it even in Showdown, Werewolf by Night was seeing a lot of action here, and it's back. It's just an interesting, solid deck. You got the Void and Viper combination now. Hood out here with the Viper. It's been a while since we've seen a mix between Clog and like actual power generation with something like a Werewolf by Night. Annihilus is legit back. We talked about this last week with Dara on the podcast. Like, Annihilus has been my favorite 5 cost of the month, and it's cool to see the card back. Is it frustrating to play against? Maybe a little bit. But it's kind of been sitting in timeout for some time. And so to see it come back with an absolute beauty deck running a 61% win rate is just a straight up wonderful thing to behold. I'm ready for some more Annihilus gameplay. I think Werewolf by Night is one of those cards that I actually don't play that often, and even when it was popular, I didn't play that often. But it is a fun card. I think that it has a lot of power potential, especially since we got a lot of more skills and stuff with all these on reveals available. It's a really cool card, and I'm glad to see it's making a legitimate comeback with a solid deck. And that's going to take us to the number 1 deck of the week, guys. Number 1, it is Merlin Board Buff. I didn't know what to call this, and this deck came out of nowhere, and you know what? Its stats are insane. If you don't believe me, here's the screenshot from Untapped, because it is absolutely wild. Now, it does have a relatively low play rate. Not many games on this, but I wanted to showcase it to you because it's a spicy cook. We do have a lot of buffs here happening at a 64% win rate, 0.1 oh my gosh, that's the point. It's a full cube, 0.05. It's crushing it. We got Okoye, we got Fastos in here. We know Nakia though. Unironic America Chavez. Yes, look like a bot while playing the top deck of the week. Gwenpool, Galacta, a lot of beauties, Enchantress for the counterplay. It's just a beautiful deck, man. Like, it's just such a great cook. I love it. And it's doing really well statistically, and who knows, now that I released this video, maybe all the stats just completely crumble and fall apart. It does have a very low play rate. But you know what? If you want to try something new and you want to try something spicy, give it a shot. Let me know how it performs for you. I'd love to hear it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll see you on that next one.